All right, it is time to go through the January 2023 Regents chemistry exam. All right, so here are the directions you see on the front of the exam booklet. Here is part A. These are typically the most straightforward multiple choice questions. You will have a copy of the reference tables. So right here, again, the 2011 edition of the reference tables. All right, so when we get to these questions, these should be the most relatively straightforward questions, should not be multi-step. All right, so which conclusion was developed as a result of the gold foil experiment? Well, let's see. Do you remember what occurred in the gold foil experiment? So let me just try and draw a little sketch here. So we had gold foil with atoms, right? And then alpha particles were directed at the gold foil. And what happened is most of the alpha particles passed directly through the gold foil. Some bounced almost completely back, and some were deflected at other angles. But again, most right here passed directly through the gold foil. So what was that evidence of? That right here, atoms are mostly empty space. What did it also show? That atoms have a dense, positively charged nucleus. But that is not one of the options here, so the option that is correct is number 1. Which two particles each have a mass approximately equal to 1 atomic mass unit? Well, atomic mass unit, remember, has the symbol U. What if you didn't remember that? Okay, reference table. So right here, we have U, atomic mass unit. I'm looking for another table, which is going to be right here. Table O. All right, and I need a mass approximately 1. Well, what you need to remember, let's just zoom in a little bit on this table. What you need to remember about this table is that the top number is mass and the bottom number is charge or atomic number. And if it is the atomic number, it is the charge of the nucleus. So it's not like there's all the elements listed. These are just the nuclear symbols. So I'm looking for mass of 1. So I need this top number to be 1. And I see that here, and I see that here. So I have neutron and proton. Okay, so the answer really is in the reference table. You just have to go and look for it. An excited potassium atom emits a specific amount of energy when one of its electrons moves from. Okay, so what you need to remember for this, right? So we have a small, dense, positively charged nucleus, and then we have electron shells around the nucleus, right? Where we have orbitals. And when energy is emitted, emit means to give off, an electron will fall from a higher energy level back down to a lower energy level. So it was in excited state and it falls back down to ground state. All right, so let's look at our answer choices. From first to fourth, well, that's going up. Second to fourth, that's going up. Fourth to fifth, that's going up. Fourth to second, that is going down. That is going to be our answer right here, where energy is going to be released or emitted. But also, fun fact I'd like to point out for this question is that you can play the one of these things is not like the others. If 3 of these have an increase and 1 has a decrease in, where it's going in the energy levels, should be obvious which one is the answer. Which list of elements includes a metal, a metalloid, and a noble gas? Well, we need the periodic table. So let's get to the periodic table. Here we go. So metals over here, left side, except for hydrogen, that's a nonmetal, are metalloids right here. Along the staircase, right, on either side. So it would be easy to identify a metalloid first. So let's go back to our list, and I know for sure that silicone, right? Silicone right here is a metalloid. Now let's see. I know that noble gas, I need a noble gas, right? So let's check. I know those two for sure have a metalloid. Now let's look at noble gases. Noble gases is group 18. So helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon. So let's go back and see if any of the ones I already selected. Well, this does not have a noble gas, so that's wrong. Ooh, but look right here, radon. That is a noble gas, right? So if this is a metal, that's my answer. So strontium, where is it? Right here. It is an alkaline earth metal in group 2. So the correct answer is number 2. All right. Which element has the lowest density at 298 K and 101.3 kPa? It's just a reference table question. So I just need to go to table S. And I have argon, fluorine, nitrogen, and oxygen. All right, let's zoom in a little bit. So what do I have? And again, density is, see this column right here. So I have nitrogen, oxygen, argon, and fluorine. So nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, and argon. So which one has the lowest density? So I need to look at which number is the smallest. Well, they all have 0.00, right? So they all have 1 for the next number. And then I look here, and nitrogen has the smallest. It has a 1 in this place. So that makes it have the smallest density. So that is nitrogen. All right. Oops. Which phrase describes the crystal lattice and properties of 2 different forms of solid carbon called diamond and graphite? Well, that's a word called allotropes. And this relates structure and properties. So here's the deal with structure and properties. If they have the same structure, they have the same properties. If they have a different structure, they have different properties. Structure determines function, if you remember from lots of other science classes. So right here, different structures and different properties. Which element has chemical properties most similar to sodium? Well, sodium is Na, so let's go to the periodic table. And if it has chemical properties most similar, it is going to be in the same group because elements with the same number of valence electrons have similar properties. So which one of these elements is in the same group as sodium? Right here, rubidium. Oops, not oxygen. Highlighted badly. Rubidium. Oh, I guess I will just underline this. There we go. This one didn't want to go. Which substance contains elements chemically combined in a fixed proportion? Well, if they're chemically combined, that identifies a compound. So let's look. Oh, element, element, element. This is, again, one of these things is not like the others. There's the compound. Which property can be used to differentiate between a 50-gram sample of solid potassium nitrate at STP and a 50-gram sample of solid silver chloride at STP? Well, they have the same mass. Get rid of it. They are both solids. Phase, can't use that, right? They're both at STP, which means they're at the same temperature and same pressure. So the only thing I could use to differentiate them according to this list is solubility. Which type of bond forms when electrons are equally shared? Okay, so first of all, sharing is covalent, right? So I'm at a 50-50 chance. Equally shared is non-polar. So number 2. Which statement describes the changes in bonding and energy that occur when a molecule of iodine, I2, forms two separate atoms of iodine? Okay, so we have I2, right, forming two separate atoms of iodine. So that is definitely breaking a bond. So eliminate these two. I'm at a 50-50 chance. And in order to break something, that takes some energy, so energy is absorbed. All right, the degree of polarity in the bond between a hydrogen atom and an oxygen atom in a molecule of water can be assessed using the differences in electronegativities. You should just know that. Which substance cannot be broken down by a chemical change? Which one is an element? Krypton. Which sample of matter is a mixture? So what I'm looking at are the indications right here. And the one that is a mixture is right here. Why? Because it is magnesium chloride dissolved in water. So it's not just magnesium chloride. Which term is used to express the concentration of an aqueous solution? Well, if you weren't sure, if you didn't know it right off the top of your head, which can happen also in a panic on the exam, go to the selected units in Table D, find concentration, and you can see there are two options. So it is parts per million. The particles in which sample have the lowest average kinetic energy. This question is always here in some way. They're going to test if you know. Do you know that temperature is average kinetic energy? And I'm just looking for the lowest temperature. So do I care how many grams it is? No, no, no. All I'm looking for, lowest temperature. So it's right here. 273 is the lowest. Which process represents a chemical change? Well, sublimes, sublimation, that is solid to gas, starts as a solid because sublimation starts as an S. That is physical, evaporation physical, melting physical. Oh, there we go. Chemical change, burning. Okay. Which equation represents a physical equilibrium? So first of all, equilibrium requires an arrow that goes in both directions. So I can eliminate this and I can eliminate this. Okay. So if it is a physical equilibrium, it means I have the same exact chemical formulas on both sides of the equation. So look here, N2 and N2. So that's physical. The other one is chemical because the chemical formulas change on both sides. Systems in nature tend to undergo changes toward, well, this is like everyone in existence, less energy and get more disordered. Entropy is disorder. Which formula represents a hydrocarbon? Well, a hydrocarbon has only carbon and hydrogen. We have ones, has oxygen right here. This has oxygen and this has chlorine. Which statement describes the bonding in an alkyne? All right, so if you don't remember, use the reference tables, and you're going to want to go to table Q. So in an alkyne, look at the picture. Look what kind of bond you have. So there is at least one carbon-carbon triple bond. Okay. And which compound has a functional group that contains two oxygen atoms? So this is the very next table where we have organic functional groups in table R. And let's scroll down and see we have two options where there are two oxygen atoms. We have organic acids and we have esters. So it ends in something enoic acid or something with a YL and then an enoate. So what are our options here? Oh, right here, methylpropanoate. Which term identifies a type of organic reaction? Well, the type of organic reactions are represented by this, PS phases. So I'll just rattle them off. Polymerization, saponification, fermentation, addition, combustion, esterification, and substitution. So which one is one that I said? Polymerization. In an electrochemical cell, oxidation occurs at the, well, remember there are a bunch of phrases, and one is ox, or red cap. So oxidation is at the anode. All right, which energy